Hi there, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Faceoff, from the first puck drop to overtime. And do appreciate all the positive comments that everyone has been saying about our previous episodes. So uh, keep giving us a like and subscribe, all of the good stuff, and send us some feedback about what you like and what questions you want me to pose to Ryan to try and get him to reveal some of the behind the scenes stuff during his officiating career. But welcome back, Ryan. Have some more questions for you because I have a very inquisitive mind, and I've always wanted to know more about the preparation of becoming an official, becoming a top official. What is like a training regimen that you've done for the off season? Like I know last episode you're talking about when you're out at the cottage, just making everything into like a workout sort of thing. But what about like a regular training regimen before the season to get you prepped for the season? And then also, as you're growing up, what kind of training did you do? And what do you have a training regimen throughout the season as well?
Yeah, well, it's a tough physical job for sure, and we don't get the breaks like the players do, where they get to get off the ice. So we definitely have to work on our physical and cardiovascular endurance and strength. So during the summers, generally my workouts are usually like a 2 hour block during the day of some form of cardio and then some strength work as well. Last few years, I've been able to develop a pretty good gym out at the lake. That I've got all the equipment that I need there. There's a group that I cycle with every weekend of fellow cottagers out at the lake that we go for group rides and challenge each other on those. Lots of mountain bike trails. A few years back, I got into rowing. I needed a low impact activity following knee surgery
That's right.
to get ready for the following season. And I was looking at getting an actual rowing shell, and the price was just beyond what I was willing to spend for something I never tried. So found a company out in BC called Oarboard that it's a rowing rig that's on top of a paddleboard. That
Okay.
I mean, it's such a fantastic workout, but mentally it's great as well because being out on the lake on a calm morning, just enjoying the sounds of the geese and just nature itself is fantastic. So it's kind of twofold. It satisfies the physical aspect, but also the mental side of it as well.
And were
Um,
you the only one out on the lake at that time?
That's the best thing.
Yeah.
So the lake we're at is a really heavy water skiing lake. So to be able to get out there before all the boats are out there, and the lake is like glass. And the amazing thing is when you're rowing, and the way the bubbles come off the back of the board, and it's just these two lines of wakes that come together and form this one. Like it's almost zen. Like it's probably the best um, physical workout that I've found. It covers all the body parts, um, but just the mental side of it, being out in nature and being able to experience that on a calm Manitoba morning. So that's one of my favorite things to do. We do a lot of mountain biking out there as well.
And you
So
said you
yeah,
said
there's
you
always.
said there was a group that got together. Are all of those others just residents out there? Or are they active and athletes as well to be able to push each other?
Yeah, there's a couple guys that are really good athletes. It's just a group of neighbors. It started off with me and one other guy that he had a road bike, and he saw that I was riding, so we got out there and rode together, and it's just grown from there. We now have a group of probably 10 or 12
Oh wow.
that get together. Not always at the same time, but we probably average 6 or 7 members each time. We got team jerseys, uniforms, everything. We have one gentleman. I'm going to be pretty close to guessing his age, but he's probably mid 70s, and he's an absolute inspiration. He just loves being in the group and riding together. He said, I'm not going fast, but I just love being out with the group, and he's just he's a remarkable man and it's a pleasure to have him riding along with us. So that's kind of my summers. Um, last week you talked about the commitment and the impact to the family. Uh, we generally have a lot of people out at the lake, but that's my work. My work was getting ready to get ready for the next season, be physically ready to do the job, and committing. On a nice hot day where everybody else wants to go down and relax on the boat or be on the dock, and I'm looking at my watch, going, I got to get down to the gym to get my work done. So it was a commitment to, and you have to do it. But that was one of the sacrifices that had to be made for the job. When I was younger, it was a lot of the same. It was probably more structured because it was getting to that point, and at a younger age you're developing your body different. As you get older, you realize that the results just don't happen quite as quickly as they do when you're younger. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I had a good group of friends that I'd work out with, and having my physical education background, I was able to kind of formulate my own programming. In the NHL, we have we have a trainer that works with us, and he helps to develop workouts for us, and he's there if we have any questions or need any help.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
The season,
I was going to ask is like, where do you get these? But yeah, your phys ed background definitely does help when you're on your own. But yeah, during the season, having that trainer to be able to help all of the officials definitely is helpful in getting that regimen together. And does he sort of keep track of your progress? And like, does he keep stats and so that he can help push you a little bit more?
He definitely. I won't say he keeps stats or monitors this. That's one thing with officiating. It's a lot of self-directed work that you need to do, and so the biggest motivator is you have to be ready for the work. So if you're not ready for the job and you're not ready for training camp to pass the medicals and physicals, then that obviously impacts your ability to do the job. So he would monitor us in that sense. I should go back and give credit to another mutual friend of ours, Dave Pollitt, who he's a physical trainer down in California, and he over the years has helped me as well in developing some different programs.
That's awesome.
He's been a great asset in my development as well. During the season, it's more maintenance. Like there's so much travel and there's so much. Consecutive games back to back that you need some time for your body to rest, but you also need to maintain. So it's more just kind of using whatever gym equipment there is in the hotels. When I get home, I've got the equipment downstairs that I can do stuff during the season as well. Just to, like I said, it's more maintenance during the season than it is actual development that would be taking place more during the summer.
Yeah, like you're saying, you're doing a lot of traveling, of course, with officiating. But yeah, when you do come home, how long are sort of your home spells to be able to use that equipment?
Generally, what would happen was we'd go out on the road for 7 or 8 days and come home for maybe 3 or 4 day of travel at each end. So really, you're only home for maybe a day and a half or 2, where you can give your body time to rest and but at the same time you still need to do some sort of activity just to maintain things. Got into a few years back doing a lot of Pilates and yoga. I realized the older you get that keeping the muscles strong but also flexible is imperative to the job. We have to be able to get out of the way quickly, and activities like yoga and Pilates was really beneficial. I wish I'd found them earlier in my career, especially Pilates, to be able to incorporate that.
And we've sort of just talked about the physical stuff, but would Pilates and yoga also help with your mental strengthening of your mind as well?
Yeah, just that downtime, and the yoga is such a great calming workout, where Pilates was more of a getting in tune with the body and how it's moving. So really focusing on developing strength and flexibility through the full range of motion, and really getting in tune mentally with how the body's moving, and noticing differences from one side of the body to the other, and trying to overcome weakness from one side to the other. So, yeah, it was it's a different exercise. It's definitely a mental and physical workout. And like I said, I wish I'd found it years ago when I first started. It was so beneficial in my last few years.
No, that's awesome. Like we're saying, that refereeing is or officiating is a mental aspect as well. So, how did you sort of prepare yourself for like to be able to deal with controversial calls or heated interaction between the players?
So that comes with it. That comes with experience, and that's probably one of the toughest things that young officials have to overcome is having the confidence and courage to make the calls when they need to be made. Um, and again, because it's such a activity that is self-evaluated, you have to be honest with yourself and really pick away at things that are working for you and that you are doing well, and concentrating on the things that you need to work on. So you need that strong mental side to be able to self-evaluate and be able to do the job properly. As far as the when things sometimes go sideways in a game, is just being able to reground yourself and bring yourself back to a state of calmness. And that's sometimes not an easy endeavor when there's 20,000 people in an arena that are all yelling and screaming. But to be able to tune that out, and I say to a lot of young officials that it doesn't matter if you're working at the local community arena and there's 100 yelling people, yelling fans, or if it's 19,000 at the whatever arena. It's just background noise, and to be able to block that out, realize that they're there for a different reason than you are, and just having the confidence and courage in making the right call and standing by it. And it's a job where it's the proverbial wave. You can never get too high and you can never get too low. Mm-hmm. The moment you get too high and you think you're above the game is when things go sideways and you're not able to react. And then conversely, when you get yourself so low that you've beaten yourself up for maybe a string of calls that didn't go your way, to be able to, I use the term park it, of being able to just park that moment of the game and set it aside and continue on with what you're doing. The moment you focus on what you did wrong, or something that maybe didn't go the way you should, or you hoped it would, is the moment you get distracted from staying in the game and continuing on and making better decisions, or so you need to be able to park it, and that's where the time comes later on in the day, or maybe the next day, to review your game either on video or replay it in your mind. And it's not about beating yourself up and watching video for the sake of seeing if you're right or wrong. It's seeing if you could have done something different, maybe being in a better position to learn for the next time that same situation happens.
But you're also working with a bunch of other officials as well, so being able to talk to them and get their feedback as well is probably a very helpful. And how do you maintain that communication with your crew for that particular game throughout the game?
So that kind of goes back to what I said in one of our first episodes, where I was talking about, it's a very individual activity, but there's such a huge team aspect to it that, there's only whether it's 2 official system or 3 official or 4, those are your brothers in arms that you rely on, and you can lean on, and sometimes that means they help pick you up, and when they need to be picked up, you're there for them as well. So it's a huge reliance on your teammates to help you through those challenging times and be there to support each other when things need to be adjusted, or if we're all human. We're all going to have bad days and tougher days, and being there to help each other out through those.
And do you sort of talk to each other on the ice when something like that goes that you're questioning, or so you wait and sort of in between the periods so you can sort of talk in private about it?
Yeah, so like in the NHL where we have the TV timeouts, it's a great opportunity to just kind of replay some of the game situations that are going through, and uh, getting a different perspective, maybe a different angle on a play, and having having them give their perspective on maybe a close offside play or an icing play, or how you dealt with a scrum or a fight. Discussing, could we do something different? Was I in the right spot to make that call? Just kind of reinforcing when there is that close call and they've got a different angle, and they can go, yeah, no, you saw that right. So yeah, there's a lot of communication that happens. There's a lot of subtle communications we even do during the game that if you don't know what you're looking for, you probably won't pick it up. But there's a lot of things that we do out on the ice as the play is going on, just to communicate to work with each other to make sure that we're getting into the right spot.
Yeah, I've noticed a few of the games that you've done, you're doing different signals and you're looking at the other linesman. And I know it's some sort of communication, but what it is, I have no idea. It's
Yeah.
sort of like a secret language that you guys are having.
Well, it's even Kevin. It's even like a just a subtle, quick look across the line. So if I've got a close play at the blue line and players are right in front of me, and I might be blocked out, but my partner's over on the other side of the ice and he's in a free spot where he might have a different angle on it, of even though it's my line and it's my call, of just giving that quick, subtle look across the ice to see that if he's got a different view and a different call, and just kind of slowing the play down to give that extra second and make sure that we get the right call. And if I'm giving the deer in the headlights look, he knows that my partner knows that he's ready to make the call and be there to support. So yeah, there's a lot of little subtle things that, yeah, if you're not looking for it, you won't notice. Even the communication with the referees of how they work the end zones and feeding off of each other. I equate officiating to dancing. Like it's you feed off of not only the game flow, but also what your partner's doing. If your partner's stuck in a spot where they can't get to where they need to, that you recognize that, stay connected to the play, and get up to that position so you're there to support. So it's very, very much the dancing analogy is very, very accurate when it comes to officiating.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure when you first broke into the NHL, a lot of those conversations were a lot of questions and just trying to gain a lot of that experience and sort of pick their brain through the game.
Yeah, well, listen, I was when I first came into the league, I was working with guys who'd been in the NHL longer than I'd been alive. So their knowledge was not only just on the officiating side, but how to go from dealing with young players, or young, like junior level players, to dealing with men all of a sudden. That's a huge adjustment. The way the game is, just the kind of the background side of how the business operates, and how important the game is to everybody. You learn from the guys you work with. I was fortunate. I had a really good development where I had 17, 18 years before I even turned pro, so I had a lot of years of experience. And I thought when I got to the NHL, I knew a lot. But then you quickly realize that, yeah, no, you know a lot, but you don't know everything. And even after 1,409 games, I still don't know everything. It was constantly a learning experience, and we rely on each other to get that kind of get that knowledge. When I got to the NHL, I say it's. I had the foundations, and I just needed to be polished to work at the professional level.
That makes sense.
And I was very fortunate to have had that experience of 17, 18 years of working junior hockey or senior hockey in small town Manitoba, where stuff goes sideways in a heartbeat, and to have had the experience at that level already pre-programmed into my mind of, okay, now I've seen this before. How did we react that time?
Yeah.
I was very fortunate to have had that foundation to work off of.
No, you're just saying, yeah, back when you're doing sort of local and regional hockey. So this is something that I've been wanting to ask you for a long time. Is you've officiated overseas, internationally. So why don't we go through some of the places that you've traveled to and some memorable moments from those experiences, like locally, regionally, and internationally. So,
Yeah, I was very fortunate with the opportunities that Hockey Manitoba and Hockey Canada provided to me through my amateur career, of getting the opportunity to work um, not only international tournaments but some national events where before the NHL went to the Olympics, Team Canada was made up of high level players that weren't professional players, and they would go on a excuse me, every couple of years they'd go on a tour, and they'd play either the university team or they'd played the Moose one year, just traveling around the province of up to Flin Flon and Thompson, Manitoba, where if it wasn't for hockey, there'd be no reason why I was up there. So to have those experiences of working really with really elite level players on an international style game was a great experience. Some of my most memorable experiences. Um, my first big national event was it was the Canada Winter Games in Grand Prairie. I believe that was back in the early '90s, and from there, it just sort of snowballed. In '95, I went to Slovenia for the World Junior C Championships. Was very fortunate to work the gold medal game there. Worked with a fantastic linesman out of Sweden. Um, and then the following year, went to the World Junior Championships in Switzerland. So those are my two big international events at the amateur career. Then in 2022, went over to Berlin and Prague and worked an exhibition game in Berlin with two local German league professional officials. The linesman, he and I still almost keep in contact daily. So to be able to work those events and to be able to work with people from other countries, and the amazing thing is even though we speak different languages, even though we might have different styles of working games, and maybe the style of the game is different. Obviously, the European game is a little bit different than the North American style. Once you're out on the ice, it's still fundamentally the same job. So for the most part, it runs fairly smoothly. The IHF does a great job of training you before you go to those kind of events to bring you up to the standard of what the procedures are, so that we're all kind of working off of the same background and the same procedures. And for the most part, it runs fairly smoothly. Yeah, obviously, there's some language barriers that occur sometimes, but for the most part, it runs really smoothly.
Yeah, with those international games, of course, the rules are slightly different too. How do you make that adjustment to, like you said, they try and prep you prior to the tournament or the game? Is it more this is what's different, or do they expect you to sort of study up on your own and learn what the rules are for that game?
Oh yeah, no. The expectations are that you know what the what the rules are in the IHF, and at the time there was a fairly significant difference between the IHF and the Hockey Canada rulebook or the USA Hockey rulebook. But they've done a great job of bringing those together. So now I think it makes it a little bit easier. But back then, I mean, yeah, some of the rules were dramatically different. The procedures were different. So the expectation was on you. Again, it's a lot of self work. The expectation was that if you're getting the opportunity to go to these tournaments, that you're going to prep yourself to know what the rules are. And yeah, the couple months from the time I got the assignment to when I actually left for the tournaments, there was a lot of time spent working on knowledge of the rules and knowledge of the procedures. There were a couple times where I'd be working a game in Manitoba and I'd ask the guys I was working with, hey, can we just try something a little bit different here? even though it's not the procedure that we should be doing in Hockey Canada, but just to kind of get myself ready for the new procedure. And yeah, as I said before, the guys I worked with were all very supportive, and they accommodated me when I asked for stuff like that. So yeah, no, there's the expectations are when you get to that tournament that you're ready to go and ready to roll, and they have their rules meetings and daily meetings to make sure everybody's doing the right thing.
No, that's awesome. Now let's jump back to the NHL. They've done a lot of marquee events over the last number of years, and wondering, can you share with everyone what you've been involved with in terms of the games that you've officiated, whether it be like the outdoor classics, all-star games, that kind of stuff. So I'll let you go through your resume of what you've been involved with the NHL.
Yeah, they're again very very fortunate. The cool thing about some of these marquee events of that the NHL puts on is, yeah, being in the game is really a neat experience. Obviously, it's a different venue, it's a different environment, so it's a pretty cool experience to be part of. But one of the best things about it is the opportunity to have family there and bring them in. And the night before, there was always a skate, like a family skate on the outdoor rink where friends and family could come along and for them to experience that with us. Those were the neatest part of those events. I think my first outdoor game was at Yankee Stadium in 2014 for the Coors Series. After that, I worked the outdoor game in Minnesota for I believe it was a Coors Series as well. That was at the college football stadium. Really fortunate when Winnipeg hosted the Heritage Classic. I can't remember what year that was, 2018, 2016 maybe, 2018, in that range of working a game back at home at the new Winnipeg Stadium, to be part of that. To who would have ever thought that a game in Winnipeg for an outdoor game would be delayed because of the weather, because it was too warm.
Yeah,
but it was too sunny, so they had to delay the game by a few hours to make sure the sun got past the stands and gave a little bit of shadow to the ice. And then the coldest one was my last Winter Classic. That was at Target Field in Minnesota. Yeah, it was absolutely freezing. It was cold on the ice, but it was even worse for the fans up top. My wife's drink froze while she was trying to finish it. It was that cold. So
what was it like being officiating outdoor as opposed to an indoor game? What are things that
it's such a different feel to it.
Yeah.
And each game had its own thing, its own reason why it was memorable and special. But the one that really sticks out to me, Kev, was the game at Yankee Stadium. It was an evening game.
Okay.
And when you're on a baseball field, the rink is kind of set up home base, or sorry, pitching mound and back. So you're set back far from the stands. So as the game started, it was still kind of evening, but as the night went on, it got darker, and then the house lights come on, and really all you can see is just the ice. And to me, the coolest thing about that was it took me back to working the outdoor games when I would work at McBay and Sansom. Of it was just the ice. It's such a different sound. It's more hollow sound. And I always say the one thing that was missing, the only thing that was missing from comparing it to an outdoor game at those rinks that I grew up on, was the sound of the puck hitting the chain link fence behind the nets. That was the only thing that was missing. It was probably one of my, what would be the word? Almost a grounding experience, where it took me back to those first games when I'm just dropping pucks for little 10-year-olds. 7-8-year-olds. I'm only 10 years old. But it truly took me back to that.
Well, I think the reason for those games was to reach back to the grassroots and going like pond hockey and ice outdoors. And so, yeah, a lot of these people, they grew up on lakes and playing shinny hockey. So being able to have that experience and share that with the fans. And yeah, in a stadium like that, you would think, do you actually hear the fans or is the noise similar to what it would be inside an arena, or is it a
No, it's different. It's different, right? Because sound travels differently,
Mm.
and you've got the sort of the openness of the stadium as opposed to an enclosed arena. So it almost takes like a there's like a sound delay. It's like watching a game
Mm.
on TV and seeing it live, or listening to it on the radio and watching it live. Of there's that time delay. So
Yeah.
there's that half second of when they score to when you actually hear the fans cheering. Um, yeah, it's a completely different feel, and it's funny. You know, I talk about that game taking me back to when I started officiating. Um, my last game, I guess this just goes to show how old I am. But I remember talking with one of the Minnesota players, and I said, this is a pretty cool experience." And he goes, "I have never played a game outdoors." Like he never played on an outdoor. I'm sure you know he played pickup hockey
Yeah.
and that kind of thing, but never played a structured game outdoors. So to him, like that, what a completely new experience to be outdoors and you know not in a temperature controlled arena and feeling the wind on your face as you're skating and yeah, it's such a there's such a incredible event to be a part of, and to have had four of them, I was incredibly lucky, and to have had two in Minnesota and one at home in Winnipeg, to be able to share those with family and friends was really cool. The other marquee event I guess I would have done was the All Star game in San Jose. Again, the best thing about that was you being out there with the top players in the league and just seeing how good these guys are. And you know, it's obviously not a real game feel to it, but just to see how good they are, even though they've never played together, how they know what each one's going to do, and knowing the tendencies, just how skilled these guys are, to see just how talented they are. Um,
And you were part of
but
the skills competition as well, right?
yeah, and that was I believe the first year, maybe the second year. I think it was the first year where they had the national female players
Oh.
take part in the skills events as well, and to see how, I mean, I think the one of the girls was top five in the skating event, and um, to watch them play their game. I had a friend of mine, uh, friends of ours. Their family came down, and they're two young kids, a son and daughter. The daughter played hockey, so for her to be able to watch these female players being on the same stage as the top players in the NHL, I think was a really special moment for her, and it was a special moment for me to be able to have had that experience with her. Um, they taking the players are incredibly generous on those events. They open the dressing room, and we were allowed to bring the kids through the dressing room to get autographs, and we're standing at the ramp coming down into the San Jose rink, and Sidney Crosby and I can't remember who else was there, but they walked by, and Jackson and Ryland both stop and, "Hey, Mr. Crosby, can I get your autograph?" And so to see that experience through somebody else's eyes, I think I said earlier, sometimes we forget just how fortunate we are and how cool of a job we have, but to be able to bring somebody else into our world to experience that for the first time, it just refreshes, and makes you realize just how fortunate I was for 22 years to have lived that life.
Yeah. So awesome to see just that the young kids, like you said, a new set of eyes and just that excitement of hockey once again. It's like, hey, I remember being that young and having that excitement. So, yeah, it's
Yeah,
almost you almost need something like that just to keep you going and keep you thirsting to keep working because you have all these wonderful opportunities to be able to interact with these skilled players.
yeah. Yeah, it's very very fortunate, and yeah, it was some of the best memories I have are those types of events of just being in a different environment, working hockey. Listen, all those, especially the outdoor games. I mean, those are all regular season games. So once the excitement and celebration of the event itself
Hmm.
is done, once that puck drops, I mean, it's just another game.
Yeah.
There's no taking the night off because you're playing a game in Yankee Stadium. It's they're fighting tooth and nail because they're important games, and it's important for us as officials to also realize that and stay in game mode,
Yeah.
and realize it's once the puck drops, it's just another game.
Yeah, because those games they definitely count the 2 points for them, and at the end of the season when they're heading into playoffs, that could mean a make or break for a team
Right.
that can get into the playoffs. So, yeah, you have to take those games very seriously. So, and I don't know if this is going to be a sour subject for you, but speaking of playoffs.
Oh, playoffs! No, no, not sour at all.
Was it a goal of yours when you started NHL to make it to the playoffs to do that officiating? And can you sort of let everyone know how they select officials to go in each round of the playoffs?
Yeah, it's a Kev, for us as officials, there's no trophy, there's no ring when you win the championship. It's our trophy is the opportunity to work those games. It's that intrinsic reward of having worked the final games and working into the playoffs. Um, I have to be careful how I say this, but I I, I, I never had I never had a long playoff career. I think I only worked 23 or 24 games throughout my career. It's a tough lineup to crack. They look at experience. They look at your performance during the season. Um, there's a lot of factors they take into account, and that when people say sometimes that officials aren't held accountable for what happens on the ice when mistakes are made or performance isn't what the expectation is, trust me, there's accountability because not when you're not working the playoffs, sometimes that is the accountability for something that may have happened during the season. So I made the mistake once of we had friends out at the cottage and they said to me, they said, do you what's your thoughts on your career? And I said, well, I didn't really have a successful career, and I could say that to a group of officials and they'd know exactly what I'm saying. To the person that doesn't know what we do to try to get into the playoffs and how hard we work to get into the playoffs, they wouldn't understand it the same way. And Rhonda smacked me on the shoulder. Probably the hardest she's ever hit me. And she said to me, she said, what do you mean you haven't had a successful career? And I stopped and I said, no, we judge our success based on working deep into the playoffs, and that never happened. So to me, that's how I was defining success. And she says,
Mm-hmm.
are you kidding me? You've lived a dream for probably at the time it was 20 years. You've lived a dream for 20 years. You've done something that so few people would ever have had the opportunity to. Can you say you haven't had a successful career? And when she said that, it was an eye opener. I'm glad she said that because it did kind of change my perspective on what we deem as success. Yeah, 24 games or 20 whatever it was of working playoffs. Every game, the feel of working playoffs is such a different mindset. Just how the game itself during the regular season is in the spotlight and we're under the microscope a lot, but that just gets ramped up when it comes to playoffs because now teams are fighting tooth and nail, and every decision. I talked about those
Yeah.
$1 million decisions on the last podcast.
Yeah.
Every decision is scrutinized even more because there is more on the line, and the expectations are that you're going to rise to those occasions.
Yeah.
So I've changed my perspective on what I deem as a successful career, but no, it's not a sore subject at all to talk about the playoffs. I count myself very fortunate to even had the opportunity and experience to work those games. I'm thankful for those opportunities. Would I've liked more? Would I've liked to have worked the Stanley Cup Finals? Of course I would, because to us that's the epitome. But part of that is also being a good teammate. And when somebody gets the opportunity that you don't get, of course you can be disappointed in yourself, and you can have your 20. Ron always said you got 24 hours to be mad, and then we're getting into cottage mode. So you have that time to be dissatisfied with maybe how the season ends, but at the same time you have to be supportive of the guys that are working, and take pride in what they've accomplished. And to me, one of the most rewarding things later in my career was when I saw guys that younger officials that I'd helped along the way and shared some of the knowledge that I got or I'd received to be able to have shared that, and hopefully feel that in some small part you might have had some part in them getting the opportunity. I took a lot of pride in that, and I was genuinely happy for when guys got those opportunities. And to go deeper into the playoffs, Kev, we cut our staff in half, almost in half, to go from regular season to playoffs to the first round, and then every subsequent round, that group gets cut in half. So the 8 guys that are working the finals, I mean they're the best of the best. They are the top and have worked incredibly hard to get those opportunities. And as I said, I take pride and happiness when I see guys get those opportunities.
And seeing those guys go all the way to the finals, do you send them messages throughout the series and saying you're doing great, keep up the good work, that kind of thing, just to encourage them and sort of as a teammate of theirs?
Yeah, and you have to. I would hope that. Well, I shouldn't say I'd hope. I remember the times where I did get the opportunity to work the first round playoffs, was getting messages from the guys who weren't working, or ex guys, retired officials, sending me messages of encouragement and well wishes and congratulations. It's important. As I said, I mean that's a big part of the team aspect of this job. Is you can be upset because you don't have that opportunity. You might think you should have that opportunity, but all you can do is control what you can. You go and you work as hard as you can every night and put it all out on the table. And if it's enough, then great. But you have to be happy for the officials that are getting the opportunity to work those games. And
absolutely.
Yeah, it's.
So I'll leave the last question to you. Looking back on,
I get to ask you a question?
No. I get to ask you one last question before we wrap everything up. So, looking back on your career, is there a moment or a game that you're the most proud of?
Yeah, I mean, I've got my own personal things that I'm proud of. Listen, the first game that I got to even pull the jersey over my head with the NHL crest on it, an incredibly proud moment to see all the hard work had finally come to fruition, and getting the opportunity to live that dream, and then the other milestones that come along the way. So that first playoff game, getting that first nod to go into the postseason play, that was a big experience. My 1,000th game, that was another great experience, and of course, probably the most proud I am was my last game, and where the first game is kind of that recognition of all the hard work that it took to get there, to get it to turn pro, but then having that 1,409 games wrap up the way it did, to be able to do that at home, to do that in front of friends, to have all those people celebrate that night with me, all the people that have stood by me, carried me on their shoulders through the 22 years. I couldn't have done it without their support, and to be able to share that with them and to have them there, and happy for me, happy for us of a job well done. That was something I was incredibly proud of. One of my most memorable games was when Jets 2.0 came back to Winnipeg, and to have the opportunity to work their home opener, and
Wow.
obviously doing it at home, and being part of a first game for any team is a great experience. But to be able to do it in Winnipeg, where I'd grown up, where I'd seen what the city went through trying to keep Jets 1.0, the pain they felt for whatever it was, the 10, 12 years of not having NHL hockey in the city, to have that finally come back, to see the excitement in the city, to be able to be a part of that was probably one of the most memorable experiences, one of the most memorable games that I had the opportunity to work.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, Ryan, to share your experiences. And yeah, I'm going to leave the last word up to you.
Last word. Well, you know what? I want to I want to double back to what I was talking about when I took pride in a newer, younger official getting the opportunity to work their first playoffs, and feeling that in some small part I'd been able to play a role in getting them there. I'm not arrogant enough to think that I'm the sole reason. I'm far from it. But to be able to play a small part in somebody else's career, I think is one of the most satisfying things of officiating. And I think it's important that officials at all level realize how valuable you are as an asset to your local program, to give back and be a part of, and to help motivate and inspire the next official coming up. It's a tough job when you start off, and sometimes we get wrapped up in the games that we're working in, to be able to actually skate in games that we sometimes don't make the time to help out the next officials, and we forget what it was like to be in that spot of not having somebody at the game and feeling like you've been fed to the wolves and you're on your own. And I think it's really important, and I firmly believe this, that any official who's working high level hockey needs to take the time to go back and help out young officials. And without the young officials coming up, we don't have a program. We don't have hockey. We don't have quality officials. So we need to realize it's important to take the time to help out. Ian Heather, my mentor, once said to me, we're all role models for somebody else. We might just not know it. And to somewhere down the road, to have somebody come back to you and say, hey, you know what, you taught my first clinic, or you helped me, when I first broke into AAA hockey. Thanks for your help to get me to that level. That's incredibly rewarding, and I strongly encourage officials to get back and give back to your programs wherever it is, whether it's Manitoba, Canada, Europe, whatever it is. Take the time to help out those young officials, because it's drastically needed, and it's incredibly rewarding in itself. So that's my send off for today. Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate this opportunity to share my stories and bring back some of my memories. And yeah, I hope that that's being shared with everybody. Hopefully, there's some good messages that are being taken away from it as well. So, thanks, Kevin, for what you're doing.